My dear soul warriors, how are you? I hope this video finds you well. Now, in this video, I'm going to talk about obsession about marriage because I know a lot of people are going through this. I've had messages, emails, and things like this. So I get it. I totally get it. You want your next chapter to start. It's not happening. You don't see any end of this struggle in sight. I totally get it. There are lots of things to say on this topic. So this video might be a little bit all over the place, but I'll try my best to kind of make it make sense. We are in this situation for multiple reasons. This is not necessarily that you're lacking in something, because, like I've said before in other videos, that if horrid people can find people to get married, and if, sometimes miraculous marriages come about, there are all kinds of stories out there. And if it can happen to other people, then of course it can happen to you as well. Like you can have a miraculous marriage, things can just come about miraculously the way that Allah has timed. Divine timing is so key in all of this. First of all, we're on different timelines. Secondly, look at this. If there was not a problem at the moment, if there was not a general societal crisis where, the moral fabric of society is broken down, then I'm sure you would have found someone, right? Like a lot of people that I know that are still single are incredible people. They've leveled up and they keep on leveling up. They've not stopped, they've not gone stagnant. They're still growing, they're still developing, and they're not finding people to match them. And I'm not even saying match them like necessarily in material things. I mean, like even on a core soul level, they're just not finding people to match them. And the thing is that I've spoken before about Yusuf alayhi Islam. I'm probably one of his biggest fans, given how much I talk about him and how much I use him as an example. But why am I called to do that? It's because, there are certain stereotypes and generalizations that I see today that have totally morally corrupted our society in at large, and then also the Muslim communities corrupted them in the same way. And they go to clubs, they drink, they and it's become normal, right? It's not even like something that's just a few people are doing. A lot of people are doing this, especially, I mean, I can't say it in the West because it's happening even in Muslim countries. So I get it. Like, I get that it's difficult to find people with a moral character. And you will see from the comments as well that people leave under my videos. They're like, oh, wow, like it's amazing that someone still has the beliefs and principles that you have, that you still uphold them. The fact that people are leaving comments like that reflects decline in morality in society. And this is the reason why a lot of people, a lot of good people, are struggling to find someone to marry. Because look, if that was not your criteria, like if you did not need someone with good character, like principled character, then wouldn't you have been married by now? Of course you would have been. I would have been long ago. But look, if people had good character, like say if that was still the norm as it was when Maryam alayhi salam was around, like do you remember at her time people in her community said to her that how could you do something like this, when they made an accusation of her having, a relationship because she delivered a baby even though she never had any such relationship, and it was a miraculous birth. But at that time it wasn't a norm. This immorality of zina, like that was not a norm. And it hasn't been a norm in most of the world for a very, very long time, actually. It's just in the past century or so that it started to become normalized, and it's become normalized, but it wasn't a norm before that. So say if you were living in those times where it was not a norm and you were looking for someone who upheld good character, which was the norm, then wouldn't you have got married in like 2 minutes? Most people in your neighborhood would have fit that criteria. And I think that's why, even not so long ago, I mean, I'm not saying arranged marriages still don't happen, they still happen, but not so long ago, arranged marriages used to happen very successfully because most people were aligned, at least on the moral front. Like okay, there were some nasty surprises here and there because obviously there have been bad people in all times. I'm not saying that, there were times when only there were good people and now there are just bad people. No, there are bad people in all times. In terms of that good moral character, that's something that has faded with time. And on top of that, like, there's a lot of brainwashing that's happening all the time through media, through peers, people around you, politicians, all sorts. Like there's a lot of brainwashing into, all sorts of wrongdoing and evil, right? It's happening all the time, even subconsciously. People like to follow other people, and it takes a minute, it takes a lot of strength to like take a step back and to think that, hey, this belief or this lifestyle that I've had since forever, was this serving me? Was this serving my higher good? Like, it takes a lot of time and strength, the ability to sit in isolation or sit in solitary, I was going to say confinement, sit on your own and to, really think through these things without all the distraction and chatter and start to question everything. And it's when you question everything that your mind really opens. And then you start to think, but who am I living for? Like, okay, you want to get married. I get that. But why does that mean that you can't enjoy the present right now? Like, the present is a gift. Allah has blessed you with a chance every single day you wake up. You have a chance at life, a chance to do something good, a chance to appreciate and enjoy the bounties and blessings that He's given to you. We have, most of us that are watching have functioning arms and legs. We have functioning eyes. We have common sense. We have our own talent, skills. Like, there is so much that we can do in this world before we go, before we move on to the next world. Like, there's so much that we can do, and we can leave behind a legacy if we want to. So we've just got to remember that, every day is a new blessing, and let's try and live in the present. Let's not keep trapping ourselves into the past or feeling like, oh, if only we had done this, if only, or questioning ourselves too much, because that dampens our spirits and it can prevent us from moving on forward in our lives with happiness and contentment. And these emotions like happiness, sadness, they're temporary emotions. It's contentment that we really should strive to achieve, because that's longer lasting. And even that can fluctuate from time to time, but at least it lasts longer. And it's more like, when I think of contentment, I think of being aligned. We've got to just try and not think about what we don't have and live in that lack mindset, that scarcity mindset. Think about what we do have. And we have a lot, alhamdulillah. Just start counting the blessings and you won't be able to stop. Like Allah has said in the Quran that you cannot count all the blessings that He has given to you. Because the thing is that we take so much of it for granted. Because we take it for granted, we end up trapped in cycles, and we can spiral into negativity. And that's just because we're not realizing what we have right now in this moment. When you look back at your life in 10 years time, you might think, oh well, I had this back then, I had this energy back then, I had the body back then to be able to like run a marathon or whatever. Like, you might look back and in awe, like, oh, I had all this, and you're going to feel nostalgic and you're going to think that you had a good life. Whereas right now in the moment, you're feeling like you're suffering and you're in pain, right? Because things are not happening. But everybody always looks back and thinks, oh, that was actually a good time. So once you realize that, and like you really internalize that realization, then it helps you to live more in the present and to appreciate even when things don't feel good. Like, you might be in a situation where the people around you are feeling miserable, or they're feeling depressed or down, but that energy doesn't necessarily have to get to you, and it doesn't necessarily have to pull you down. Now, I know a lot of us have traumas, trapped emotions, things like that, and they can block our route and our path to contentment. So if you've not done like any kind of shadow work or anything, it might be worth doing that, because you might feel that once you retrace where certain persistent feelings and emotions come from, what the root cause is of that, then you can get rid of that, and then that can clear the blocks in your path and help you to feel more content day to day, rather than feeling like you're stuck. We've got to try and clear the blocks step by step, baby steps. Try and just keep moving and make those little changes. Those can be tiny changes that you make in your life that make your life feel richer. Like, it could be that you try a new type of food that you've not tried, or you try traveling to a city that you've never gone to, or that you do something that makes you feel good. You might find a really good book to read. Look for things that can give you a little bit of joy in your life every single day. And then when you do that and you make time for yourself, and you might want to like pamper yourself, you might want to do a facial or something, and you do that, and it makes you feel like you're valuing yourself. And I never used to, like, I remember a long time ago when I first started hearing about this self-love stuff, and I used to think, what is that? That sounds really selfish and narcissistic. But actually, like, I realized that it's so important to to do that to some extent. You should feel that you can love yourself to the point where, other like bad energy doesn't trigger you too much. It doesn't like penetrate your soul. It doesn't drag you into the darkness, because you are so sure of yourself, and like who you are as a person. And I feel like we're going really deep with this topic. But when you are centered and you know yourself, then it's going to make you a more discerning person. Like, you will instantly discern what is good, what's bad, and everything around you. Like, the more you do this consciously, the more you will do it subconsciously. Now, the other thing is that I've been watching a lot of manifestation videos, and the way I see it is that, of course, Allah gives you everything, right? He's the one who's provided us with everything that we have on this planet. So anything even under manifestation and the law of attraction, all of that, I believe that comes under all of his laws. He's the one who's manifesting things for you. He's the one who's saying kun fayakun, and things are happening for you. If you are seeing things happen, like for example, sometimes it can be things that you've not even made an active dua or had a conscious thought about too much, and you see them materialize. I see those as signs of Allah. Like, for example, like since I was a little kid, I remember that sometimes I would just really be craving some kind of food. Like one day it might be pasta, other day it could be something else. So I would have these thoughts, and I wouldn't think too much about it. I wouldn't dwell too much on it, but I'd just be like, oh, it'd be so nice to eat that pasta. And then I'd find that my mum was making that specific type of pasta that I wanted, right? And a lot of people will call this manifestation. And I've seen this like throughout my whole life, things like this happen. And I never called it manifestation. I just called it a dua answered, or Allah hearing me and knowing what I want. But the thing is, with manifestation, some of it can be quite scary. I watched this lady who had a boyfriend and she got him back, right? But after he left her and he made that rigid decision that he would leave her. And, she was just like obsessively scripting about it, and, all this positive affirmation stuff, but doing it compulsively and obsessively. I don't think it's healthy really to obsess over something. Like, Allah says that sometimes you want something that doesn't have good for you, and sometimes you don't want something but that is bad for you, but it's actually got good in it for you. So sometimes we can think certain things like, oh, if I have this, then my life will be complete, or if I have that, then then everything will be okay. But how do we really know? We don't. We don't know, because Allah knows. Even like this whole thing about specificity, this comes under manifestation a lot as well. That, be really specific about what you want. So even before scripting, like, know exactly what you want, be able to describe the ins and outs of it in detail, be very, very specific. And I know that some people swear by this, and I'm sure it works. Like, I'm not doubting that it doesn't work. I'm sure it does. But it's just that, how do you know that what you are specifically asking for is the best thing for you? I watched this other lady talk about it. And what she said is that instead of being very specific about the sort of person that she wanted to marry, she instead wrote down the feelings that she would have. Because she says that, I've never had a type, but she wrote down the feelings that she wants to experience, with the next person, the person that she wants to marry, right? And she did end up marrying that person as well. But she wrote down the feelings, and I thought that was a better thing to do, actually. I thought that was more healthy, to write down how you would feel with that person, rather than what that person looks like, or how much they make, or these other things which might not necessarily work in your favor. You don't really know if that's the best thing for you. But if you write down something like, oh, I feel safe with this person, I feel seen, I feel understood, whatever it is that you would want feelings wise, and you feel that you would need that in your life. So we don't necessarily have to be really specific, because I remember there was a time when I thought, I'm not being specific enough, that's why I'm not getting what I need in my life, right? But yeah, now I realize that it's not even that. There might be traumas and other things, like I mentioned earlier, that might be causing you to feel that kind of obsession. So for me, I remember I worked with a practitioner who, this was before I became a practitioner myself, but at that time, I worked with someone just in one session because I was having this obsessive tendency as well. And I was like, what is going on? I hate it. Like I'm finding it too much to cope with because it's just like it's eating up my energy and I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to be obsessive. So I remember, having that session with a practitioner who removes like trapped emotions, and she does like rebalancing of the body remotely just through energy. And it did actually help. Sometimes we can get obsessed with something and it's not healthy, and you've got to get to the root cause of it. Like, why is this happening? And why am I feeling like this? I don't want you to lose the sparkle in your eyes. I don't want you to lose a bounce in your step just because something that you have always wanted hasn't happened. Because you never know. Look, Allah's timing is perfect. You just never know what might happen when it will happen. And the thing is that it's not even your fault. It's the society that we live in. Like, there's been a moral breakdown in our society. And I do feel, though, collectively, that there is a raising of consciousness now, and that people are starting to challenge everything that they've been brainwashed by, and they are starting to see that there have been wrong influences in their lives, and they're trying to make a change. But it's going to take some time, for all of those things, all of those changes to materialize, and that's okay. That's great. At least the process has started. I feel like we have started to go back to our ancient forms of healing and medicine that we had lost in favor of modern medicine. I feel like we're starting to go back and to our roots and find those nuggets of wisdom and light again, which I think is beautiful. People that tell you that manifestation can happen overnight, like you do this or you say this dua a million times or 100 times, and by tomorrow you'll have what you want, or you pray the hajjat every night, and you know in a week or within 2 months or within a month you'll get what you want. Those practices are good. Like anything that makes you pray or remember Allah, those practices are good. We should be thinking about Allah and be conscious of Allah all the time. But anyone who says that if you do this a set number of times and you will get your goal is lying. How do they know? And the thing is that if we go back to the Quran, right, and we look at examples within the Quran about situations where prophets have struggled, these were prophets of Allah. Look at Yaqub alayhi salam. Yaqub alayhi salam, he was Yusuf alayhi salam's father, and I've talked a lot about Yusuf alayhi salam. So you can go back and watch my videos about that, or just open Surah Yusuf on Quran.com and read about this story. But Yaqub alayhi salam was very upset that he lost his son. He was extremely upset. He was crying all the time and he was in grief. And he knew that one day things would get better because Yusuf alayhi salam confided that true dream, that prophetic dream, to him before he got taken away by his brothers and, went through multiple life trials and was parted from his father. So Yaqub alayhi salam knew all that about his son and that things would be okay. But that didn't mean that he didn't have to wait. Of course, as a father, he would have wanted his son back the next day or the same day, right? His son was only a child. Yusuf alayhi salam was a child when he was taken away by his brothers and dropped into a well. But he waited for divine timing and he waited patiently, and it was really hard for him. He was so upset. He went blind with the crying that he did. So these human emotions that we have, they are normal, right? They are normal, but I'm not saying that, if you feel sad or you feel in grief that this is abnormal. No, it's normal. It's normal to feel grief that, something that you have wanted to happen by now, and that seems to be normal according to everyone's timelines, or the majority of people's timelines hasn't happened for you yet. And it's normal to feel sad about that. It's normal to feel disappointed and feel in despair. At the same time, there are things that we can do to keep moving in life, and so that we don't lose ourselves, so that we don't waste the rest of life away. Yaqub alayhi salam had to wait for many, many years, I think decades actually. He had to wait for a very long time to be able to reunite with his son. So there are prophets that struggled, that had difficulties, it doesn't mean that our life must be difficult. We don't need to make life more difficult for us than it already is. Already there are, struggles and difficulties and challenges and trials in life, and we can do what we can to improve it. So if that means we spend a bit of time on ourselves and we pursue the things that we enjoy just to add a bit of happiness into our lives, then we should do that. Why not? There are so many tools, so many activity clubs, there are so many things that are now available at our very fingertips. If we can improve our careers, or if we can, if that brings you joy, or if it's building stronger relationships with your family, or building new friendships, or seeing the world, or whatever it is that will give you true joy and contentment, then why not pursue it? If that is also helping a nation of people that are struggling, pursue that. Pursue causes that are dear to your heart, because your life will feel so meaningful and joyful if you do that. So I really hope that this is helping and it's not sounding too preachy, because I'm literally talking to myself actually first before I'm talking to you. So please don't take it as like me preaching. Whilst I was editing the video, which is already very long, I realized that I forgot to mention one really important thing. So I'm going to clip this in somewhere into the video. But I actually read that some people are able to, when they manifest somebody into their lives, then that person who is being manifested can start to suddenly have thoughts or feelings from out of nowhere. So just be wary of that can happen. And if you're feeling like, oh, someone's name is just like suddenly popping into your head, or you're feeling like really heavy or strong emotions or something that doesn't add up, because like it could be about someone you don't even think of in that way or anything like that. So if that happens, then do recite Surah Falaq, Surah Nas, and recite those surahs anyway, like I would say on a daily basis, just to protect yourself from like bad negative energies. And just know what you're saying when you recite those surahs, because they're very protective. So some people like to recite Ayatul Kursi as well. So that's something you can do. But just, Quran has so much protection in it, and remembering Allah and asking Allah directly to protect you from bad energies is so important. There's like a whole thread, I think it was on Reddit or Quora or somewhere, where I read about like how people feel when they're going through this, like this sort of manifestation thing. And so, yeah, just be cautious, and also cautious about your own energy as well. When I read about this, I was like, oh my gosh, I've also got to be wary, that I'm not putting bad energy out there. Like I'm not thinking bad of people, or, like sending bad thought energy out there, because even our thoughts carry so much energy and weight that when you read into this stuff, you realize like, wow, it's actually quite scary and spooky. This is why, Allah asks us to be good in our deeds and our actions and our thoughts. And, when He asks us to lower our gaze as well, it's like this boundary as well, that, don't cross the boundaries. Like even energetically, like don't cross boundaries. So I think that is, really solid guidance from Allah on this topic as well. If you start to feel desperate, then that energy of desperation can feel quite heavy. So it's like, for example, if you walk into a shop and the sales assistant comes to you and starts watching you, and you can just feel their energy, that they really want you to buy something, right? You can just feel it, even if they're not saying it. You can just see, because like, they're like hanging around you, and they're like urging you to look at certain things or something, and they're looking really expectant, right? And that energy can repulse you. You probably would want to leave the shop as soon as you can, in a minute or two, right? After browsing, you would rather not stay in that shop around that energy, because it feels repulsive. So it's the same thing from what I understand with manifestation as well, that it's better to kind of detach and not become so desperate over something or a certain outcome, because when you do that, then you can send that kind of same repulsive energy to a person that you might be considering for marriage, for example. So just try and detach. And you never know, like sometimes when you detach and you start focusing on becoming a better version of you, then you might realize that as you grow and you become a better version, that actually you were better. You were just desperate for, for something that you thought you wanted and that you thought was good for you, but actually once you've done the work, you've done the inner healing, maybe you could get something better than that. Like maybe, you know, you are not aligned with that person, which is why it never happened in the first place. But it could also be that it's a energy of desperation that makes people repulsed. So just be careful about that too, like your energy, and just try to keep it as composed as you can. You know, do feel free to share your thoughts, your comments, and tell me how you build yourself up. How do you level up? Tell me, I want to hear it. How you keep going, how you try and maintain that contentment, and what you appreciate about your life today. Drop down in the comment section below what you are grateful for today. Tell me three things. Tell me three things that you're grateful for today. You know, if you like this video, please like it. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, then feel free to subscribe. I hope to see you in the next video, inshallah. Take care.